Good day and welcome America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports in the Briefing. Well, there's a major MAGA rift off the Richter scale, and it's a huge split, maybe irreparable damage caused, and I'm not completely surprised by this because America First, even though Trump's trying to claim that he's the first to ever talk about America First, which I have explained, I've explored, I've exposed the fact that with the exception of going back to World War II and the protest of entering into that war, and then certain broadcasts and certain actors and players relating to putting our country first and nationalism, some people call it isolationism, but then it resurged in my view, a very positive way with Pat Buchanan when he ran against King George Bush Sr., and his theme was America First. I started my radio broadcast a little bit earlier than that with the America First theme, America's Town Forum, and I've got the business cards, I've got the bank account, I've got the commercials, I've got all the documentation to prove that. And so in the early 90s, we did have a crusade in an America First movement, and I'm proud of that. So Trump was a Democrat at that time. Trump would go on some talk shows. A few years later, he flirting with running as an independent or as, it was the Perot Party. Well, now I do recall the party. It was the Reform Party. Now, Pat Buchanan ran a few different times. I think he even ran as a Reform Party candidate, and I think, or the Conservative Party or something along those lines. But that's not really that important at the moment. So Trump did flirt with the idea of running, and he did not have an America First theme at the time. Now, Trump did talk about trade. That was always a signature issue, not unique, but still part of what Trump was speaking on in terms of his guest appearances on the news programs and talk shows. So anyway, so Trump's saying that he defines and that he solely will determine what America First is. Orange man, shut the hell up. You don't determine anything as it relates to America First. Reagan talked about make America great again. He didn't call it America First because he was very involved in the international front, as we know, and George Bush pushed him as well. And so did George Shultz, Secretary of State and very powerful man in the New World Order. So Trump is redefining America First, which is like out of Orwell's 1984. So he's getting us involved in more international disputes, conflicts, wars, when he pledged not to, and he was a peacemaker. And now we've got Tucker Carlson going after, in an interview with Ted Cruz, and going after his former colleagues at Fox News. Trump's attacking Fox News because, again, certain polls are not as favorable as he'd like. And Trump says that MAGA hates Fox News. He lashes out at Murdoch and the media empire on his True Social tirade. Now, wait a minute. So many of his cabinet members and high post members are ex-Fox hosts and staff. So it's like whatever he wants to say is his reality, which needs to be our reality, which not, I object. So the phony war he has with Fox News, he couldn't have gotten elected without Musk and without Fox News. Now, I know Newsmax plays a role in OAN and Real America's Voice, but that Fox News base, and I'm not going to have time to cover this particular story, but there's another Smartmatic suit against Fox News for the election lies or distortions 2020, and that's pretty big. I mean, again, I've already covered this. The voting machines company suit against Fox News. But the other company that won the suit, 787 million plus, was Dominion. So Smartmatic is able to use some of those documents and their own documents through discovery. And wow, it even fortifies everything that we've talked about and everything that we've come to know. Here's a slight aside, and it was an article that I posted about Fetterman spotted with Bannon at a DC MAGA hangout. And it's almost like professional wrestling where they used to try to separate the good and the bad guys, the villains and the heroes. And now you see that these guys associate outside of so-called work. Okay, weird, strange. Yeah, so the MAGA factions are breaking apart due to the Israel strikes on Iran. Now, Bannon, he just called for, here's an article, it was published by Mediaite. It said, Bannon scorches Fox News pundits mocking patriotism of anti-war MAGA, you hated Trump. Loomer threatens to snitch on conservatives criticizing Trump during this raging MAGA civil war. And you got Charlie Kirk involved, Margie Taylor Greene. So here's the article that was published today. Bannon calls for investigation of Fox News' Kayleigh McEnany, Sean Hannity, and Mark Levin over support for Israel. Now, I mentioned that Tucker Carlson not only went after Ted Cruz, but he also is going after his former colleagues at Fox News. Mark Levin screams at Fox News viewers and tells them to support bombing Iran. You're either patriotic American or you're not. Hey, screamer, you can shut the hell up too. Always screaming. Now, he makes some good points, and he's bright. He does articulate, even though he's got the razor blade gargling voice, or gargling with gravel. So the quote, and this also came from Mediaite, but you can find it on Drudge Report. You can find it at The Hill. You can find many of these things in other news venues. But Tucker Carlson attacks warmongers at Fox News, Sean Hannity, and Rupert Murdoch. They all have to answer for this. So you've got Bannon, you got Tucker Carlson, and so you have this split where these guys, whether you agree with them or not, they are more America first than Trump, and they're non-interventionists, where Trump did talk about taking the Panama Canal, taking Greenland, annexing Canada, among other things. Oh, and the Gaza, he's going to make it the Riviera of the Middle East. Literally take it over and be the real estate developer and take control of the land. So to me, Trump is and I talked about his imperialistic tendencies and impulses, and they are emerging. Now, how about Tulsi Gabbard testifying to Congress, stating, and remember, she's over all the intelligence agencies, okay, again, and a Fox News personality and former Democrat. She said that Iran did not pose. They weren't close to posing a nuclear threat. And she also put out a video tearing down the warmongers and those that were trying to push Trump in this direction. And now she's on the outs, and then Trump said she doesn't know what she's talking about and denounces her. So Tulsi Gabbard is probably going to bite her own tongue, tuck her tail, and just like press secretaries for presidents, go along with the lies. Now, if she still has an ounce of integrity, she will resign and protest. Now, I'm no fan of the Iranian regime, but I think every life except those that are like Epstein pedophiles, or those that they abuse animals, or they are just vile, wicked, like serial killers. Yes, I do believe in putting those kinds of folks to death. Okay, having or life in prison or severe penalties. But the innocent people that always are collateral damage, sadly, and we don't always know the true motives and the intentions of these conflicts and these wars and what's behind it. But there's always some scheme, and it's usually financiers that benefit, and the billionaires, and the world controllers, the world rulers, the dark nobility, the hidden hand, the secret rulers of the world. So we have this MAGA split, and this doesn't bode well for Trump. Now, certain people are so wrapped up in biblical prophecy and the state of Israel and defending Israel, and I have to admit that in the last decade, I've become more empathetic and sympathetic for Israel. But I'm also empathetic and sympathetic for humanity and mankind and what's right and what's just. And the avoidance of war and unnecessary deaths, to me, are primary. And I think Trump seemingly was succeeding with some of these negotiations with Iran. And then we've got conflicting messages where Trump said he always knew about the Israeli plan to bomb. Then there was talk that he was wanting them to hold off and still do more negotiations. So we don't know how involved Trump was, but Trump is now making the claim that he knew all along. And now he's saying there's a 2-week window where the United States may become active. Militarily active, not just helping with shielding of the missiles coming in, the defense shield. So this is getting to be very serious. It already is serious. And so if Trump gets further involved in this, besides these other things I talked about, then he could never, ever claim to be an America firster. And he is an agent of chaos. He is a disruptor, but many times the disruptions are not with strategic known ends and with results that are beneficial. It's just being disruptive and chaotic for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting to see who on the other side of all this is the winners in terms of America first and non-interventionism. And also just this new resistance and holding Trump's feet to the fire and exposing the Fox News Murdochs of the world and exposing those that are so wanting this bloodlust but will never suit up themselves, will never volunteer to suit up, but want to see death and destruction at whatever cost because they're so wedded to this specific ideology. So I guess the Bush-Cheney mindset is still deeply instilled in D.C. and Trump is Trump is drinking the Kool-Aid. So to me, this whole thing has become very sinister, very detrimental for our country, for the countries in the Middle East. It's just a really sad time, and I just hope that we can lessen the sorrows and that somehow the resolution can come without more devastation and destruction and mass casualties and more death. Well, hey, I hate to bring you bad news, but I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but these are bad times with bad decisions that ultimately affect the entirety of humanity. So mankind is at the precipice of what are we going to do next? So I'm just going to leave it on that note. We'll pick up on this and other things next go around. Tom Donahue Reports. Have a great evening till we meet again.